but I did the shoot. And he was like, yeah, so we're going to submit it to magazines. And granted, I don't think I've ever seen the edited version of those. Granted, where those photos are, I have no idea. But
oh my gosh.
It just happened.
Welcome to Blundrs Radio, where our motto is live life and make blunders. Today we have a super special guest. She is an actress. She is a media correspondent. She is a video vixen. She's everything I've wanted to be in media, and I haven't really quite accomplished that yet. She's appeared in Bobby Valentino's video Little Bit. She's appeared in one of my music videos, Reflections. She's interviewed the likes of Keke Palmer, Anthony Hamilton, and Rhapsody, just to name a few people. So without further ado, please welcome Symphony Thompson.
Thank you. That was such an introduction. I feel like I'm somebody.
I wanted to do my best with that because who in their right mind decides to interview someone who interviews people, right?
Gotcha.
Like that was what I was worried about, because I was like, man, she could really dissect every single question that I have and be like, oh, he should have probably went there with that. So like, that's why I don't even interview. I just am like, let's just come in and we're just going to have a good conversation and have a good time. So
honestly, with you though, like I know you're always digging deep. Like I always tell you, like you just,
right.
If this is deep, you just go deeper. So I already know it's going to be something that's in my soul, in my heart that I got to pull out. So I'm ready.
Well, I really appreciate that for sure. I just want to let you guys know that when we shot the music video Reflections with Symphony, she is like not the type of person to just be like, okay, this is my role. She's like the type, like you want to like carry speakers and like be behind and be like, oh, I'm gonna make everybody feel comfortable in this, and I'm gonna make sure that I put everything forward. But I want to know like what makes you like that? Is that intentional? Is that just how you are? What is it?
It's just how I am. Like I don't like to sit around. Like most people say, well, you're the talent, relax, like let us do our job. But it's just like if I'm not doing anything, I can, lend an extra hand or just help. So it's a pull. Like literally I've tried to sit back and be the talent, but I don't know how to. Like it's just like, no, let me grab a camera, let me grab a speaker, let me grab something just to help out. I don't know, it's just a pull to assist and help all the time.
Okay,
no matter
that's great. No, you're like one of the most supportive people ever, because you like to take a project, because I think we've worked together on like 2 projects.
2.
Yeah, 2 projects, and you're like, I'm not just going to take this role and do it, but I want to take it and I want to like bring it to life.
Absolutely. I want to add value. Anything that I'm a part of, like I don't just want to, be there and just do the bare minimum. Like I want to add value to, especially when I'm graced with your presence or someone of your liking. But seriously though, where you create such a great platform and when I'm able to be on it, like I don't just want to, do the bare minimum. Let me add to this so that we can take it up a notch. So.
Right, and that's super important for creatives out there who
Absolutely.
are trying to get into creativity, and knowing that this isn't just one of those things where you should go into it wanting to do the bare minimum.
Right.
Because to become a Symphony Thompson, it's not something that just happens overnight. You don't just snap your fingers and become Symphony Thompson.
Okay.
And get to where you've gotten to and interview the people that you've interviewed and been in all the music videos that you've been in. But one of the things I want to ask you about is I noticed that in a lot of the projects that you've done, and let's say music videos, I jokingly use the term video vixen, but that's not necessarily the roles that you've played though.
Right.
You typically play as an actress,
right?
You play like an actress, and then you typically play a part in a relationship.
Absolutely.
And I've seen that that's been a pretty consistent thing. Do you think that that's intentional? Is that finding you, or are you finding those gigs?
So they actually find me, but anytime I've definitely been asked to do, videos where it's like, you come in a bikini and you pop this and pop that. And it's just being aware of your brand. So as you mentioned, being a new creator or, whatever field you're trying to get into, it's important to know what's your brand. So for me, anytime something is, offered to me, it's just like, is that who I want to be? Like longevity, when I look back and I tell my kids, this is what mommy used to do, or, an internet will never lose anything. Granted, no disrespect to anybody that does do it, but it's just not the brand that I choose. And I think everybody has their lane, and there are some girls that can do it, and not me, because your girl just ain't got it like that. But I pick those or choose those that are offered to me just because it fits well, and then just being able to get into the acting mode. So I guess more of a video actress than a video vixen, because I'm not really. Most time it is a video actress.
So what do you do? What do you do to prepare for those roles? Like what do you say to yourself when you're like, okay, I have to play this role? How do you prep for it? Like for young creators who are trying to get into acting, what do you do to make sure that you're ready for your gigs or your roles?
Absolutely. So for videos, I listen to the song a million cajillion times. Granted, when you get on set, you're going to hear that song over and over. And after, it's going to be stuck in your head. But I listen to that. But in addition to that, too, like, I'm big on love movies. Like, I love watching love movies and I love love. So if it's, something where I have to, like for us, when we were when I had to be upset with you, it was like, okay, let me research some things and see how, because I'm not a natural, angry person, or like when I do get upset, it's very calm, but I had to be a little over dramatic,
Right.
for that one. So just doing my research and looking at other actresses, always being in a mindset of, being a student. So whether, I don't even have a gig coming up, just every day, people watching, paying attention to different things that I watch on TV or commercials. Research is probably the biggest thing, and that can be, different for everybody. But for me, and then that just really taking in, okay, what does this look like? Visualizing it in my head over and over. Okay, what do I want to do? What steps do I want to take? Because when you're shooting a video or, anything, your movements are important. So make small, subtle movements. So doing that and practicing that at home, because when you're in a video and you shoot the same scene over and over, you can't move to the right and then move to the left the next time. Like, it has to be consistent so that those shots are consistent. So practicing in the mirror, me in the mirror, that's definitely my best friend.
Right.
Like, hey girl, what we got going on today? So yeah, I would say that's probably the most of how I prepare.
Right. Super. I did notice that you pay a lot of attention to detail. You're
Yeah.
very detail oriented in your projects, because even when we were trying to film the scene in Reflections where you're upset with me in the kitchen, it took me probably 4 or 5 times to get it, and you were pretty consistent. Like, you did the same thing every time, which helped me.
Right.
Because I was just like, I don't yell like this.
Right, like, this
I don't
is not
I don't
who I
want to I don't fight people.
Right.
Like, I don't or that's just not a part of me, but
Right.
but at the same time, like, I wanted to put that across, and you definitely brought it to life with how you did it. So I really appreciated that. And
appreciate it.
you guys should definitely check out her stuff. She's been in, as I said before, a little bit, by Bobby Valentino. She's been in my video, Reflections. What was the one where you literally had a whole verse?
Time by Justin the Twin.
That was dope.
Yeah.
That was
and
really cool.
What's crazy about that video is, so I can't remember where he lives, because we contacted each other a while ago about this project. And he asked me to do the voicemails on his song. Mind you, we live in 2 completely different states. Completely different. So, he hit me up like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this project and I'd really love for you to play the voicemail of the woman. So I was like, cool. So, I sent him some voice memos. He was like, perfect. But then time went on and nothing, funny, time, no pun intended.
Right.
But time went on and, we kind of disconnected, and he, was working on different things, and so was I. But then we reconnected. So I shot my part here in Atlanta, and he shot his part. I can't even remember where he is. And then, everything was edited. And it's crazy, because looking at the video, I would have never guessed, they're in 2 different, 2 different states or what have
Yeah,
you.
same
but
here. I definitely thought y'all were at least in the vicinity or something.
Not at all.
So it wasn't even the same camera person.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Nope. He we just discussed angles and what speed to put it on, camera talk. And then I kind of laid out to him what I thought would be a good setup for me, my movements, of what text message. So we really collaborated on that, which big shout out to Justin. He's absolutely amazing. But definitely stay tuned. The video is absolutely amazing. I love the video. But stay tuned. There might be a part 2.
Okay.
And I told him if he needs me to, rap, I might, do if you want to use my voice to actually rap, we
Right.
might can do a little something. So we'll see.
Okay.
We'll
Got
see.
you. You got to get your features in when you can.
Okay. Okay.
definitely.
Feature me.
Gotcha. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, though, is something that you've done on Instagram for a while, which is your Transparency Thursdays.
Yes.
That is something that I know you're very big on, transparency, showing people what it really takes to get where you are, and also not just to get where you are, but how you're feeling, how you're doing.
Absolutely.
And not hiding it. What brought you to the place where you wanted to be as transparent as you are today?
Yeah, so being trans, I just feel like that's always been me. Well, no, actually, let me back up. So originally, I used to keep a lot in. So
Okay.
I grew up in a household. What happens in the house stays in the house. But once I got on my own and really realized, like, okay, this is like keeping this in is building up a lot of anger and frustration, and I'm taking it out on people that I love. Once I got to college and I started, meeting friends and really establishing real, friendships, I started, just talking about things that I've been through, things that I've encountered, and it was just such a relief for me. And then, for me, if that was it, I probably wouldn't be as transparent. But like seeing how people reacted to it, like, oh my gosh, like I'm so happy to hear, I'm sorry that you went through that, but it's such a relief for me because I went through it too. They could identify with that. And that brought so much healing for them. So it was just like, oh no, that's motivation to keep sharing my story. So I used to travel a lot for work. And one thing, like wearing makeup and like all that, like it's fun, but like it's so much joy at the end of the day when I get to take off my makeup. And if, when I was wearing wigs, then like take off my wig. And it was just like, well, why don't I share this moment on Instagram? Because so many times, and I know you and I have talked about this, but so many times you see all these pretty pictures and, what everything looks, it's all glam. In which, granted, like I would always post my best pictures. But I was just like, well, why not show, when I am taking off my makeup, when I am ripping off my wig, and let's have a conversation about things that we typically don't talk about. And then just to back that up, in Revelation, God talks about how they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. So being able to share my testimony, as I mentioned earlier, not only frees me, but it frees other people. So now I'm just like, you get it all. Like, and sometimes it'd be TMI, and I hit up, people on Instagram when I go into my Transparency Thursday, hey, this might be too much information, but I lay it out, and the reaction to it for me has been helpful because it's just like, not only am I healing myself, but I'm healing those that are around me, people that are following me or, looking up to me or what have you, people that are my friends. And then it just creates connections too. Like I've gained so many friends that we've experienced the same thing. And it's just like that friendship probably would have never begun if I didn't share that, if I wasn't open or transparent to share that. So yeah, that's what made me start Transparency Thursday. But I'm currently rebranding Transparency Thursday and actually making it like a whole IG series. So I'll actually have, different guests on and just talking about things that, and granted, when someone comes on, I don't want them to come with like no makeup, like put your hair in a ponytail if you need to. Like I want you to come as transparent as you can be from outside and inside. And we're just going to have candid conversations, that typically people are afraid to talk about.
Gotcha. So I noticed you said, which is very interesting because I think I grew up this way too.
Yeah.
With my parents, and kind of like what happens in the house stays in the house. Oh, right. What do you think? What do you think that stems from? Because I've always wondered myself. So I kind of like to know other people's opinions. Like why do you think, especially? And I think that's a very typical thing of Black families,
Absolutely.
specifically. So why do you think that is? What do you think that may stem from?
Honestly, I'm still trying to figure out like where, like, why do we start that? Maybe like a signature of weakness. Like our community feels like, if we're showing that we're going through all these things, people are going to think we're weak or, judging us, just the fear of being, judged for whatever it is that you're going through. Fear of, for example, like I was molested when I was younger. So for me, it was fearful to like, well, are they going to believe me? Or if I tell them, I'm going to get in trouble or, but it's just like, it's unhealthy. Whatever the stem of it is, it's unhealthy, and I feel like that's a big reason why mental health is such a issue in our community because we keep everything
right.
in the house.
No, that's a really powerful message to share, and I think that kind of lets me in a little bit more as to why you're so big on transparency, right? Having a traumatic experience, not being able to share it, having it bottled up.
Oh yeah.
And then it just kind of overflowing and feeling like a volcano eventually. Because it has to come out in some way, shape, or form. And I think there's like the healthy way to deal with it, where you can like talk about it and maybe dive into the things that you have, or you can, as you said before, right? You can take it out on your family or your friends or people who are important to you, and that can really, really hurt in the long run of things.
What do you think? Why do you think we sweep it under the rug or keep it in the house?
That's a really good question. I've always thought that as a black family, you know, when you have stuff going on, you didn't want anybody to judge what was going on inside of your house.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of what it was, and I think it's also because I don't really know how it is in other communities, but I do know it's kind of like, oh, that's how they're raising their kids, that's how they're doing over
Right.
there, that's what they do. Like that may be okay at their house, but that's not okay at my house.
Exactly,
You know,
yeah.
like there's this constant comparison of households and what needs to happen. And I'm one of 7 kids, so like I definitely needed to kind of, you know, like, you know, we weren't always living in the best living situations. It was like 9 of us in a 1-bedroom, you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
like, or less. So like you know what I'm
That's
saying?
crazy.
We were
That's a
like, we were trying to make
testimony.
it. Yeah, no, for real. So it's one of those things. But I wanted to ask you too, with media
Mm-hmm.
and being transparent. And there's obviously like elements of like PR as well, right? Like they tell you like, oh, this you don't share.
Right.
This is okay to share. This is not okay to share. So how do you navigate like media PR with your transparency?
So luckily for me, like I haven't encountered anyone that's been like, "Whoa, don't share that."
Okay.
I've been blessed with opportunities to be surrounded with people that are just like, "Oh, like I actually love your story. I love the fact that you're able to reach people that some people." But I have seen it where people are just like, "Yeah, no, don't do that. Don't say that." Yeah. And honestly, it's for me. If I was to ever run into that, it's just a matter of like this probably isn't the best place for me because I don't want to be something, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to send a message that's not real. You know what I'm saying? Like, and like, for example, I always say, and this is totally off the wall, but I always said, like, I would never be a brand ambassador for something that I don't eat. Like, I don't eat McDonald's. So you'll never see me on the front of, advertising. So I'm not going to advertise a lifestyle that's not me. So I am transparent, regardless of what platform or where you see me, I'm going to be transparent. And I think it's just a matter of, surrounding yourself with people that support that.
Right, definitely. So I know we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I want to ask you a little bit more specifically. How has transparency helped your mental health in getting out, and dealing with those situations? And then also with being transparent, do you feel like there's any area in your life that you think, oh, that may hurt me?
Oh, I told you, when you go deep, you go deep. So I'll start with my mental health. So to be completely transparent, being transparent is definitely helpful. Like it's like a relief. But then, with that relief, the people that receive it, there's a reaction. So me giving this off, there's going to be. So the first time that for example, when I came out about being molested, a certain group of people didn't believe me. And they were people that I really cared about, people that I do care about and love. And to this day, they still don't believe me, and they still communicate with the guy that did molest me. So for me, it was like a relief. Like, oh, granted, I didn't tell it the best way because it just happened. Like he was trying to mess with a close family member. I'm trying to be real careful here. He was trying to mess with the family. This is
the block with transparency,
right.
People.
Okay.
This is it right here.
I will say I'm very transparent when it comes to like what happens to me. But then when it's putting people on blast, it's just like I know that I can forgive people. But like kind of like when you're in a relationship, you don't want to tell your mom and dad everything that your boyfriend or girlfriend does wrong because just because you may forgive them, they're not going to forgive them. So it's just like when it comes to involving the actual people who did it, it's just like, I'm not going to do that to y'all because I forgive y'all, but the people that hear this or people that receive this may be looking at y'all like, oh, who is this and that? So I just say the group of people because I don't think, mentioning them is really going to make a difference of, what happened. But yeah, so he was trying to mess with a close family member and I blacked out. Like completely blacked out. We were in a room full of everybody, and I blacked out. Next thing I knew, I had a knife to his neck, and I was like, "If you ever do to her what you did to me, I'll kill you." And so he like ran out, and then my family or the people were just like the family members that were in the room. What did he do and da da da. So I tell the story, about what happened, and I'm like, such and such was in the room when it happened. Here's. Giving, which I don't feel like I should have to do that. I don't feel like I should have to be like, oh, well, here's an example, or here's somebody that was there. Like, my word should be bond, but that's not what it was. But so after that happened, it was just like, it felt good to say it and to get it off my chest because I had been like keeping it in for so long. But then the reaction was horrible. it was like, oh, well, if it's true, then file a report. Mind you, this had been like 10 years later. If it's true, file a report, or I just don't believe you. If that was the truth, why didn't you say anything? And XYZ. And it was just like, as much of a relief it was, and from my mental capacity, it was also like hurtful to receive that. So it was like I went up, but then went right back down.
Gotcha. Okay. So like, okay, here's a question I have for you, just stemming from that.
Yeah.
I just think that culturally, in the Black community, we struggle to just believe our women at face value.
Right. Yep.
I just because I think a number of people have talked about this, about how there's just this unreasonable expectation. I say it's unreasonable, but Black women have been meeting it for so long, in that you're like a strong Black woman, right? Like every Black woman has to be like strong, because if you're not a strong
Right.
Black woman, like, are you even Black?
Right, it's like-
that's those adjectives are like super, like strong is like the adjective that you attach to Black women, which I've kind of, I think I've seen a lot of times. But can you think of why do you think we still have that issue in our community as a whole? I know it happened in your family,
Yeah.
like the lack of belief, and it's even works amongst women not believing women as well.
Absolutely.
Right. So like, where do you think that comes from?
I think so. For me, in my situation, the reason I'm able to forgive, and because it's like you never know what that person went through. So like we talked about, coming from a household where what happens in the house stays in the house, or maybe something happened to them, and it's just it could be a number of things. But honestly, I feel that most times it's something they've been through has affected them to think like, okay, well, she's not telling the truth, or just automatically just. And not even that they don't believe it, but it's just like they don't want to believe it. So they take that I don't want to believe it, and then just be like, no, that didn't happen. Like try to make you think like you're crazy. Because honestly, I started thinking like, well, dang, did it happen? Like, am I in a dream? Am I like, is somebody recording me? Just because of like how much backlash I was getting from expressing that. So I think it's just something that happened to them or how they were raised growing up.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's just one of those things. I really appreciate you sharing that, because that is something that I think it gets swept under the rug a little bit too much, or way too much. Actually,
agree.
not a little bit too much, way too much. So I really do appreciate you sharing that. I want to get a little bit too also into your career. As we said before, it's not an overnight snap to where you become Symphony Thompson, right?
Yes.
You don't just become who you are. You don't just become a moderator for Comedy Hype like how you are now.
Yes,
You don't
big
just
shout out
end
to the
up
Comedy
you
Hype
don't just
team.
end up where you've ended up like that. So first thing I want to ask you though are, what are some mistakes that you made? What are some blunders that you made along the way that you wish you would have known? Like, oh man, I definitely know I should stay away from that along my journey.
Okay, I'll give you world premiere. You know how they do like the. Okay, so I'm gonna start light and then I'm gonna get real heavy.
Okay, all
I'm
right.
really ashamed of this one. Okay,
Okay,
light.
okay, let's go.
I wish I would have used more opportunities. So networking is huge in this industry. And it doesn't have to necessarily be like, let me walk up to you and just like, hey, this is what I can do for you. But just talking in general, like I will always be afraid to like, okay, let me just sit still. If they see me, they'll come up to me. So being proactive and like me making the first move just to say hi and, get to know somebody. That's the very small thing that I'm constantly working. The other thing, okay, let's talk about it for a second. Okay, see what had happened was, because when we say that, what happened was, so do you know when I think it was ESPN? No, not ESPN. I forget, one of the fitness magazines, but they did like they were naked and like some of them had like a basketball.
Oh, like the body?
The
I think it's
body,
called
yes, the body
ESPN,
issue.
The body, yeah.
Okay, well, I was working this event, and there was a photographer there who did a shoot similar to it. I don't think I've ever told you this.
I don't think so. This is new. This is world premiere.
It makes me sweat thinking about it. Like, I did this so much. But when I saw the photos, like, they were empowering. Like, it was like it wasn't sexual. It wasn't, like she was naked, but it was like empowering. So I was like, oh, like that's cool. And he was like, yeah, if you're interested, you can come, come do a shoot. And I'm like, okay, well, I'd like to see more photos first, just to, make sure. And I'm looking at all the photos, and all of them look great. Like, they're amazing, beautifully done. Like, they just showcase the beauty of a Black woman's body, but it's not sexual. And that's my big thing. Man, I pull up to do the photo shoot, and I should have just stopped myself then, because it was just like, girl, this ain't it. This ain't it. But I did the shoot. And he was like, yeah, so we're going to submit it to magazines. And granted, I don't think I've ever seen the edited version of those. Granted, where those photos are, I have no idea. But
oh my gosh.
it just hasn't. But granted, like, I wasn't like full-fledged, like, like, here you go. Like, it was still like, different poses, but never seen the light of day. But he said he was going to submit it to magazines in that we couldn't show anybody. But then I get a message maybe like a couple months later, like, hey, I saw the shoot that you did with such and such. You look great. And I'm just like, but you were supposed to submit that to magazines and not show anybody. So now I'm curious, is like, okay, well, what shots did you get? Did you, zoom in, or like, what exactly did you do? And it was just like, I would never.
How deep into your career were you at that time?
Oh, this was like in the beginning.
Okay,
in the beginning.
Like Is this like pre-college, post-college?
This is post-college. So I got into media post-college.
Okay.
This was probably like my first year in. And like I said, like, when I saw the photos, they just looked so good. But then when I got there, or not even when I was there, because they were gentlemen. They were, because there was the camera guy and then the guy who had the brand. And they were like, it was great. The photographer was great, but it was the guy who actually owned the brand that shared the photos after. And that's when I was just like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. That was...
Okay, so it wasn't that the experience of the shoot and all that was like terrible or anything like that. It was just like the whole concept. You
like,
just
don't
wish
go
you
showing nobody.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and at this
and
point,
you didn't
now
have a
it's just like...
non-disclosure at that time, or like anything signed? Oh, no, you're new. You're new in the industry, right? You're just like, let's just do it. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, let's go. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Right.
It looks so good. Like, don't do that. Especially here, it's being a woman in the industry, you have to be very mindful.
Right.
Because men will, and not all men, some men will say, okay, I want to do this on a business tip, and then try to, slide in elsewhere. And it's just like, no.
What are some checks and balances that you can give to like female creators who are going to, maybe do a photo shoot or a video shoot or something like that?
Yeah.
Maybe some things to look out for credibility's sake and for safety's sake, or certain things that you've done to make yourself safer and more comfortable.
That's a great question. So for starters, when you encounter a male and he gives you his card or you give him your card, email him, don't text him. Just because if it's really business, you're gonna communicate with me on a business level. Once you hit that text message, for them, it's like, okay, this can be personal or business. So that's for starters. That's something that I've definitely transitioned to. I actually took my cell phone number off of my business cards because I started getting guys, call me at 3:00 in the morning. And it's just like, no, email. So email only. Anytime I go anywhere, and I've done it with you, even, auditioning, send your location to multiple people. Tell them where you are. I don't care if the opportunity is, you can't, you're not supposed to tell anybody. Just don't broadcast it. That's what that means, not to tell anybody. Don't broadcast it on your social media, but definitely tell your family members. And as a woman, if you can have someone with you, take someone. I've been to multiple shoots where, and I don't inform them all the time that I'm bringing somebody. But if I have somebody with me, it's just like, I'll bring somebody. Sometimes I've told them, ahead of time if that's the case, but either I have somebody or at least 10 people know where I am and I'm sharing my location. Like off rip. I think I sent I sent my location to you.
Yeah,
like,
I remember that.
Hey,
yeah.
if I don't text you, within
like
the first 15 minutes.
She was like, if I don't text you by 3 p.m., I need everybody out here right now.
Immediately.
And I was just like, I remember looking at it and being like at first I was just like, oh, she did that on accident. And then you sent me the details of the location. And I was like, oh, she's serious. And I was like, okay. So then I remember being like, well, hit me up at 3.
Yep.
And just let me know. Cause now I'm like, okay, what's up? What's going on? But
I did that to I think I sent to 10 people. I sent it to a group of girls. And I was just like, yeah, I know that I know your whole household is going to hold me down. So just people that you really trust that are going to show up for you.
Right.
Whether it's hey, if I don't, hit you back by this time, call the cops. You know what I'm saying? Because honestly, it doesn't matter whether you're out broad daylight or nighttime. It's crazy for women. So all safety precautions must be taken.
That's it. That's a huge one. Okay, and I want you to share another blunder with me if you can. I love to know the true story behind the artists, like the mistakes behind the creators.
Another mistake. Let me dig deep.
She doesn't make any, ladies and gentlemen. No. This is Symphony Thompson.
I make mistakes, but I feel like with you want something deep. I mean, I've called, a woman someone else's name, and I'm not going to say who they were, but the woman that I called her. So let's say we have Sarah and Barbara. I called Sarah Barbara, and Sarah and Barbara were actually beefing. So
wow.
That's actually a good media tip. So don't always listen to people that are on the carpet, because I asked someone like, what's her name? And I think she was like on one of the, Love and Hip Hop or one of them. I can't remember. But I was like, hey, what's her name? And they were like, Barbara. And I was like, cool. Yeah, I'm on the carpet with Barbara. And she gets hyped. She's like, oh, so I'm thinking like I'm doing a bomb job of like introducing her. And I'm like, yeah, she's done X, Y, Z. And she was like, no, my name's not Barbara. I'm such and such. I'm Sarah. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. And it was just, you could tell the interview from there was pretty much dead. But I mean, I pushed through the interview, but I felt awful because they were like beefing. I don't mean like on no like, and I mean like,
oh, okay.
Beefing,
There it was full on.
Oh yeah. I think they had fought or something. So.
Oh wow. The blunders that I've made personally is I can think of is I've arrived too early to too many events.
Like how early?
No, I come when they tell me to get there.
Okay, gotcha.
But I'm always like, Hey-Zooz is always the guy that's waiting at the door.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you told me to get here at 6. Like you said I should come at 6. So I'm here at 6. And then I realized like once you're like working with like artists and other creatives, you just got to get there later.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
Like if they tell you 6, they really mean 7:15.
Exactly.
And then the
sound,
so yeah, it is. And then also like the whole time thing, it just really depends on people. I try to be pretty punctual.
Yeah.
But I just realized that like when you're operating in other people's spaces, you can't really, you can't really do that. So like that's really, really tough. But yeah, I don't think people realize how difficult though, back to your story, how difficult it is when you're interviewing so many people. Oh my gosh. Okay, cool. Granted, you're famous, right? Okay, people know who you are. people like interact with you. Like there are, let's say it's 1 million people who know who you are.
Right.
But those 1 million people are not responsible for knowing, 85 of you guys, and then knowing what everybody's got going on and what they're doing.
Absolutely.
I just want everyone who's listening to this to know that being able to interview a huge volume of people is a talent.
Oh my God.
It takes some crazy type of ability. That is one of the reasons why you're so amazing.
I appreciate that.
So, because I've seen some interviews with you, and I was like, man, you pulled them out of the depths because it wasn't going well. Like it wasn't looking good, and you somehow brought them back. So. Is that your love for people, or are you thinking at the same time like I gotta save them, or are you thinking like I don't want to look bad either? How are you thinking like in the interview? Like you see like the cringe compilation interviews, and you're like, oh my gosh, like what makes you like be like, okay, I gotta save this person, even though they may be a celebrity?
Yeah. So one of the things is like my love for people. Like I genuinely love people and genuinely am interested in people, but sometimes there are everybody has their days where it's just like. Today is going to be, one of those days you have to push it. So sometimes it is like, I've had to like tell myself, okay, keep pulling because he's not budging. But it's, understanding that, especially when you're famous or not even, famous, just people who deal with a lot of people on a regular, like sometimes they just go through these interviews and they're just going through the flow. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you never know what happened before. You never know where they're coming from. So I try to keep that in mind. And I'm just like, okay, they probably had a rough day. Let me make this more of a conversation than an interview for them. Let me make this an experience rather than like, oh, okay, here's just another one. Yeah, okay. Just these short answers. And it's just like, okay, let me have a conversation. with this person rather than just having them sit through
Right,
another
right.
one.
No, that's great. Okay, well, I do really appreciate like you coming through and you sharing like all this knowledge and your experience with everything that you've gone through.
Absolutely.
We're going to. Can you hand me that? I think it's time. We should
This one?
probably. Yeah, we should probably like pick a penguin,
Pick a penguin. Pick a penguin.
and then after we pick a penguin, how do you turn this on?
Pink a penguin.
Yo, so like you know how people say like, oh, they're living in the year like 2030.
Yeah.
I'm living in 2001.
Oh, you're. It's okay.
So
I'm on Pluto, and Pluto's not even a planet
So-
anymore. So there's
Oh,
that.
Yeah, that is weird. They got rid of Pluto so quickly, so easily. All right, so we had her select one of these guys, right? And she selected the Floaties penguin,
My boy with the floaties.
right? So we'll flash that up on the screen because
Gotcha.
that could have been hard to see. So thank you for being here. And because you've picked this penguin, what we're going to do is we're going to put on a beat. And we're going to let you freestyle to it. And then, because that is the Why penguin. That's from the song Why. Remember Why?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Why, that's the
Absolutely.
Why penguin. So that's the musical penguin. So we're going to put on a beat, and then we're going to let you rap to it, but we're going to make sure that, like, we like, close the curtain, and then we're going to open it back up, and then it's just going to be beat and you rapping.
Got it. Okay.
And you know, you can go for like we'll probably give you like 30 to a minute. You know, I don't want you to give people too many bars.
And that's what I'm saying.
Right,
You know what I'm
right.
saying?
So
you know
okay,
what I'm saying?
so let's get you started again. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank
and
you for
and
having
we'll definitely do this again because like every time I see you, you're more famous than the last time. So like I'm
Right
definitely
with you.
cool with that.
Right with you. Literally right. You, and let me just say this. I appreciate you not only inviting me here, but just inviting me in your space. So one of the things that has definitely helped me is you. And I think I mentioned that to you a lot, but I just want to make sure the world knows how amazing you are. You've definitely helped me in the journey and been one of those people that's like, get up and get going. You know what I'm saying? Because there was a time that I was just like, just kind of stuck and not really moving. So it was your pep talks that was just like, girl, I mean, you didn't say it like that, but
Yeah, I got you.
you know, girl, get up. Get up, girl.
Right. No,
But, you know,
I really
appreciate
appreciate
it.
No, and I appreciate you too. I mean, I just like how you bring things to life. So sometimes when people are accustomed to bringing other people to life, sometimes they need something to pick themselves up because oftentimes like the things that we do as habits, it's because we need them as well.
Right, absolutely.
Right. So those are one of the things. So, yeah, that like you got really sentimental on me like right before we were supposed to like start rapping. So like it kind of like, but that's okay because we do whatever we want. This is Blundrs. You know, we live life, we make blunders. So let's go ahead and get into this freestyle. Blundrs Radio. We got Symphony in the house.
Blun.
You can drop all the bars you want right now. This is your dream.
Let's go. You going first?
No,
I
this
got
is
it.
you. This is you. Let's go. Let's go.
All
You
right.
got it. I'll go back and forth with you. You go 2 lines. I may go 2 lines.
Okay, okay, 2 lines. I got it. Okay. I'm in the studio because I'm so nice. I like my chicken all up in my rice.
Ooh.
You don't like me? Then you just ain't nice.
Oh.
I hit hard. I hit him like feist. Cause I'm feisty, call me real hard. You don't like me, then I will pull your card. Get up in my car, go real fast. Don't pass, kiss my ass.
Oh. Look, you saw she blurred herself. I've never heard anybody blur themselves. This is unbelievable.
Zeus, it's
Okay,
your
let me
go.
try to do something real
flow.
quick. They sitting back, asking me who am I? Oh my gosh, another beat I've had to eulogize. Now they looking at the child smile, see it in their face. Oh my gosh, I'm praying again, amazing grace. Now I'm all up in the church again, all up here I'm working in. Now I'm about to pass the beat, yeah they think I'm lurking when. Now I'm in your house though, I'm in the south though. Yeah, I'm coming from the north, they think I'm in the south pole.
I'm from the south, I talk with my mouth. You don't like me, then you can get out.
Hey.
I got Zeus in the studio, we about to go crazy like crazy, oh.
Hey.
I eat my cereal with almond milk.
Okay.
You don't like me, well I like silk.
Blundrs Radio.
Check it out. You can find me in the media. I keep it hard like pedia. Don't know what that mean, but that's the word today. You like me, then I say, hey. Listen, I could really be a rapper. I can really be a rapper, but it's just that, you know, when things come hard, I just kind of go with the flow. You know what I'm saying? I feel like if I was a rapper, this would be me, like talking on the track. You know, and sometimes things just don't go the way you go. So you just get in the studio with the headphones on, like, eat chicken. Nah, I'm kidding. I like salmon. No hamming. You like turkey? Murky. They don't like it. Boobs up, they perky. That needs to go in there. You know what I'm saying?
This is great. This is great. Shouts out again to Symphony Thompson. Shouts out to Jurgi Uno who helped us put together the sound, and Curious Creator on the visuals. So thank you so much again, Symphony. That was amazing. And
I think you should be my writer.
I could be, and then I also think that you definitely need a feature somewhere.
You know what I'm saying?
So we'll
I just need a ghostwriter. But don't tell nobody.
Yeah, we won't. They have to watch this to know.
That's what I'm saying.
So, yeah.
It's a world exclusive.
So now we're going to go and, like, live our best lives and party.
Holla.
Holla.
Give me $1. If you fall, call you